Hi, my name's Jennifer, I'm from Live Chef, and today I'm going to be sharing a recipe with you. We're going to be making nut meat pies. Now these pies are more of a pie for people who don't eat meat, but they like the texture of meat and sometimes some of those meaty flavours. So the products, the feature in this recipe is nut meat, which is available from your supermarket, coming in the health food section, and that's based on peanuts. And our other ingredient that we're using is called TVP, and that's a vegetable protein based on soy. Now when you get TVP, it comes in a dry form, very much just like cardboard almost. You have to soak it in boiling water and let it sit, and then it absorbs the water, and then you rinse it out and you get a mince-like texture. But I have to tell you, it doesn't taste very nice. On its own, it tastes a little bit like cardboard. So I'm going to start by chopping an onion, and we want our onion diced fairly fine. Just a couple of tablespoons of olive oil, we'll just let that heat. With the garlic, we need about 3 reasonable sized cloves of garlic. These are quite big, so I'm just going to use 2 of these bigger ones. Now, a lot of people have trouble chopping garlic and peeling it, but I have a really good trick for garlic, is I use the back of my knife and I hammer it like this. Just with the back of my knife, the skin comes off easily, and your garlic is already half chopped. So I just take that little bit of the end off as well, and then I can start chopping my garlic. And that's a very simple way. I don't bother with garlic presses or anything like that. They take more time than just chopping garlic like this. And then we're going to just put this into the oil. Now we're going to cook that a little bit, just to get that onion and garlic just so it's nicely sautéed and a bit transparent. And while that's doing that, we're going to get our nut meat out of the tin, and we will start to cut that into medium-sized chunks. We don't want it too fine, but we don't want great big chunks either. Putting this in with the bowl, and our next step is that we're going to add our gravy into the mix. This is just a really simple recipe, believe it or not, and it literally only takes a few minutes to make. So what we're doing now, we've got 2 cups of water in here, and we've got 4 tablespoons of gravy powder. Now I've just used one from the supermarket, but they don't have meat in them actually. Mix the gravy powder into the water, and we're going to add this into the pan. Now we need to just stir this until it's thick. We added 2 tablespoons of tomato paste into this mix, and we're just stirring that around till it's all well mixed and it's started to thicken. Now as that's thick, we're going to add our mixed vegetables, and that's just 1 cup of frozen mixed peas, corn and carrot. And then once we've added that, we add our nut meat and TVP. Now at this point we might need to adjust our water. You don't want it to be too runny, but you do want to have it in a sauce. So as I'm looking at this, I think I need another cup of water. Now the best way when we have a pie, we have a short crust base on the bottom, and then we put a puff pastry on top. Now the reason for that is if you put the puff pastry on the bottom, you'll have the bottom of your pie just trying to puff up everywhere, and it's not a very nice texture, and it actually doesn't taste as nice. So the short crust pastry gives the nice crisp bottom, and then the puff gives it that nice puffy top. So we're going to just cut out now. The idea is when you're making pies, everyone's pie tins are different shapes and sizes, and I'm trying to keep everything nice and simple, that you don't have to go and buy special equipment. So when I make pies, I just look around the house and I try and find a bowl or a jar or something that's going to suit the pie tin that I'm using. Now, as you can see with these ones, I've just cut them out quite big, and then I put little cuts around them so they fold over into the tin nice and easily. So I just take I've lightly oiled my tins, and I just put that in like that, cross over where I've cut, so it sits in the tin nice and flat. We're filling up these pies. We don't want them right to the brim because they'll just start to spew out as they're cooking. So we just put a few spoons of the mix in, leaving room at the top. I don't need my top to be any bigger than that. So I just get one of my pie tins and I go around. Make sure your pastry's quite well thawed out when you go to press it. If it's a little bit frozen, it'll crack. So just sit that over the top like that. When you're buying your ingredients for this, you'll need more short crust pastry than puff pastry because you need a bigger amount of pastry on the bottom of your pie tin than your top. So as we've done that, I'm just going to roughly crimp around the sides. You can make pretty patterns if you like. So you need a good decent hole in there to let the steam out. And then once you've done a hole in there, you can use a pair of scissors if you like to cut a hole. You get some water and you just glaze the top of the pie with some water before you place it in the oven. So they're ready to go into the oven. Now, how quick and easy were they to make? So we've got our pies ready to go into the oven, but just as one, we're going to make a little country pie. Now, I've cut this pastry out a little bit bigger than the other ones, and I've put some filling in, and now I'm just going to roughly fold these edges over the top and have that little bit of the top open like that, and that's going to give us a nice little country pie when we're finished. And that one doesn't have any puff pastry on at all, it's just cooked in the short crust pastry. So you can just choose your style of pie. Okay, so we've just got our nut meat pies out of the oven. They took about between 30 and 40 minutes. Now, every oven is going to be a little bit different. We had it in an electric oven with both elements on and the fan as well. Usually after about 15 minutes, you need to rotate the pies so the top ones go onto the bottom shelf and the bottom shelf goes onto the top, and that way you get an even cooking right throughout. So when you see they're nice and golden, just remove them from the tray and take them straight out of the oven, and they're ready to eat straight away. It's always best to have your pies hot. Now, some people just like plain tomato sauce. Me, I prefer this kind of pie with a nice touch of relish or something like that. Now, I've just bought one from the supermarket. You can make your own if you like, and this is a tomato and cracked pepper relish. So we just put that on the side of the plate to serve. Now, some people like these just on their own with the sauce. Some people like them with salad, or you might want to serve them as a main meal with some mashed potato and some fresh steamed vegetables. But I'm sure whichever way you eat them, you'll thoroughly enjoy them. I'm just adding a little bit of parsley on top of one, and our country pie has a little bit of dill on top as well. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this recipe.